listening today. I believe how our marriage worked because I was, I am a believer and I believe in God and I am a Christian and I grew up in a very staunch Christian home with very, very strict upbringing from my parents. And, um, and that is what I want to share with us today. I don't hear my parents actually sitting us down to prepare us for marriage. I don't hear any advice or any mentoring from my parents because, they were not even thinking that way. We were still in school. My dad actually passed away when I was only in Form 3 or Year 9 now, and I was only 13 years of age. I never heard that, but I see. I see my parents.
The life they
Yeah,
live,
the life
yeah.
they live.
Oh, I think that's someone.
Yeah, and my mom doesn't go out. My mom, she doesn't work. She stays home. Only my dad works. We run a shop and we have a farm, and my mom does all that. And that's the only picture I see. I've never seen my dad speak harshly to my mom. I've never heard them fight. Maybe they have their own arguments and they, take it elsewhere, or they do it when we are not listening or, out of our sight. But I've never seen anything in our family that I see later. And with everything that I see then, I mean, that was only for 13 years of my life because my dad passed away when I was only 13. But that 13 years of just living with my parents and living in our home and observing everything, that was the experience I walked with into my marriage. I grew up after that, school and everything. I kept myself. I mean, from 13 years to 16 years, I start work. And then 2 years after starting work, I met this man who became my husband. And I walked into that marriage with that. It's not that I hear anything from my auntie or from my uncle because we never have anybody with us. It was always us, me and my siblings and my mom. And with that experience, I took it to my family and my marriage. And he comes home drunk, or he comes home, grog doped, or he's going with his friends of rugby. He travels to the northern, that comes to the Matavito Kadi, Gito Ike, Lako Ike, Navila Kwek, Sanganito Konirawa. But Sagabanto Nindonangon, the Melisuma no Navila Kwek, or when he comes back from one of those journey, or hanging out, or even when he goes and play rugby, there's always women around because there's women cheering or women doing whatever. And or he goes to Matavito Kadi, hanging out with the women. And there was never a time that he comes home or he comes back to us for me to even raise an issue or to say, stop going. Or what are you doing with these people? Never. He just continue to live the way he wants to live. And here am I on the other side. We'll never raise it. I'll just be quiet. I'm just happy with my daughter. I have a job and I have a home to go to. And that was just good enough for me. And over the years, when Dad was working, going through that marriage, and we walked in together to Air Pacific then, now it's Fiji Airways. And our office is not far from each other, on the same floor. He works in a department or in a division that has flight attendants, have women in the office, and always women everywhere. And even then, there was never a moment that I would, be barging in and say, okay, who you are, stop talking to that girl or stop it. So there was never a moment like that. I respect it because that's his work area. I never felt threatened or feel inferior to that extent to say, who are you talking to? So they'll be calling his phone, they'll be calling home. And sometimes when you get off the car park, they're standing there. Oh, Mr. Bolon. And I said, okay, his work doesn't start in the car park, his work starts in his office. So go to his office and wait there, not in the car park. This is my time. So I just live my life and I try to enjoy as much. And there was never a time that I would Molakamai, to create conversation, or I see him hanging out with women, or even when they go and do flight attendants interviews, so he can be the only man and surrounded by women. I don't know what happens when they go to the northern, they come to Suva. We were in Nandi, and whatever that he does, or the kind of relationship he has with those women, there was never a time that I would question him. Because in my heart, I trusted. Whatever that he does with that trust, that's his own call. And now looking back over the years, I say to myself, how did I allow that? I could have said this or I could have interfered, but I never. And my marriage is still intact until today. And that's 38 years ago. So to make it work,